So this video is going to be for all the music producers that sample in their beats. For me, if you've been following me, I'm a heavy bass sample producer. It's just something I like. I've always sampled in my music, but I get a bunch of questions on, are you worried about copyright strikes? How do you clear your samples? And I want to go over that in this video. And before I even go over and touch anything, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not, I don't even really have any placements or anything. I am just right now a producer that likes to make YouTube content for you guys, making as you can see, like making beats on the MPC. There's an MPC Live 3, but like I just want to give my thoughts about it and my experiences when it comes to sampling. So first I want to go over, I think it all depends on the situation. So for my situation, I'm just making a lot of beat videos. I show the process of me making my beats using samples. So my process is usually I find a sample. Like, for example, I find this sample right here. It's already chopped up and everything, but when I present it, I make sure that, if I play the actual sample, here, let's go right here. I tune it up. Like, that's one thing. Like, I speed my sample up. And if you're doing that in beat making videos, just make sure to manipulate it before you actually play it. I honestly avoid playing the full sample. Like in some of my older videos, I go through like step by step, like let's go through some samples. So I'm like, okay, this is one sample right here, and I let it play out. Like, you definitely have to be a little smart about it, especially if you're making beat videos or beat cookup videos. I do have some videos, especially live videos, that I'm making a sample beat and I'm playing a bunch of samples like from old records. And yes, YouTube Content ID will definitely give you a strike for that, or not a strike, but just a copyright issue claim or whatever. I never got like any strikes on my channels, but like after I was doing that, I learned like, okay, I'm not gonna play the full sample. So that's one thing. You just gotta make sure you're manipulating it a little bit, like chopping it up and all that stuff. So for the second part, like if you're making, say that you're just, hey, I just want to upload my sample beats. I used to upload a lot of type beats and stuff like that. And I'm gonna be honest, like I didn't run into a lot of issues with copyright. Especially if I use like an old school sample. Again, it all depends on how you manipulate it. Like, I don't go crazy with my chops. Like, honestly, for the most part, I keep like the same rhythm or the same pattern of the sample. I just like, I'll chop it up a little bit and then pitch it down, So you just gotta make sure like you're chopping it up and all that stuff. And one thing I forgot to mention too, a lot of my beat videos, like, I don't know if this is a thing too, but like right now I'm recording off my camera microphone, and I feel like even that's manipulating the audio because it's not directly coming out my MPC right here. Like, it's picking up from the camera audio or the camera mic. So that could be count as manipulation too. I think maybe if you're playing straight from the source or like straight from like the outputs or something, like it might be easier for YouTube to pick it up in that way. But just something I forgot to mention that, because I think that's kind of big too. A lot of producers that do beat making videos, they record all the audio coming from like their computer or whatever, so it's cleaner audio. Like, in a way, I have a dirtier sounding audio, I guess. But yeah, going back to like you making beats, in my experience, I didn't really run into a lot of issues when it comes to samples. Like, especially if you chop up the sample a lot and you just want to upload the beat how it is with all the chopped up samples that you have, I don't think you're gonna have an issue. Another thing that I do in my beats too is using sample packs, or for a good example, like I know that Splice has a lot of not controversy, but like a lot of people don't like using samples from Splice, and I get it because I think your video will be easily flagged or you'll get hit with a copyright notice. But all you have to do for that is just counter it and just say, hey, I'm using a royalty free sample, because it is a royalty free sample. Like I've ran into issues like that with sample packs, and all I did was say, hey, I'm using a royalty free sample, and right away I like my video is monetized. Like you just got to fight that copyright claim. You know what I mean? It's gonna be different, of course, if you're using a sample from a record or something like that. Like of course that's gonna be hard to counter that because you aren't using a royalty free sample. It's from a record, and that's the reality of being a sample based producer. Like I've mentioned in other videos too. Like if you're worried about that, I would just avoid using samples. Like just avoid using samples. That's the best way to work around it. Like just don't use samples. You know what I mean? But I think a lot of people ask me because they see my channel growing, and it's like a legitimate question. Like, aren't you worried about it? And honestly, like I'm not worried about it. I think the only time I'm gonna be worried about it, this is probably gonna be my next point, is clearing samples for artists. So right now I'm not really working with any artists. I'm working with my one boy that I'm close to, but that's pretty much it. Like I'm actually thinking about making beat packs and making them available for other artists online. But I think in all reality, like you're not gonna worry about that unless it's a big placement that you're getting. Or say that I do have a beat pack and a rapper gets it and they get a bunch of plays from it, millions of plays, then yes, we're going to have to go back and be like, or we're going to have to like see that momentum of plays, of the streams, and be like, okay, like, yo, this is a sample that I'm using in the song. So, we probably should figure out a way to clear it. You know what I mean? So I think if you're in that situation, you're in a good situation anyways. Like you're getting notoriety from your beat, the song's going crazy, like like that's a good place to be in. If I got a placement with Westside Gunn or Freddie Gibbs or something like that, like their record is responsible for clearing it. And again, I'm not a lawyer or anything. I just watch a lot of sample based music business videos and stuff like that. Like I've been studying it for a little bit. Again, I've never been in a situation, but from what the information I gathered, it usually comes down to the record or the record label that needs to clear it. It's not the producer that actually needs to clear it. I do think if you're selling beats online, it can be a little bit trickier. You just got to let the artist know, like, hey, I'm using samples. You know what I mean? But yeah, like, I think at the end of the day, if you're going to be a sample-based producer, this is something that you're going to run into. One thing I would not advise, this is just another side note. If you're doing this full time and this is the only income that you're doing, do not sample. Do not make sample beats. Like, I don't know. Like, again, I get a lot of comments of people ask me this, and part of me is like, I don't know why they worry so much about it, because, like, I don't know their personal life. Like, I have a full-time job, so like I'm not crazy worried about making a bunch of money from this because I already have an income coming in. You know what I mean? Just to be like upfront with you guys, you know what I mean? I'm not making a lot of money off this YouTube channel. Like I'm building it. My goal is to build this YouTube channel and like show you guys how I make my beats and maybe talk about different topics. And I'm still working on my thing, but I think the psychology when it comes to people worrying about this is the money part, which is it's valid, but I would make sure that this isn't the only income that you're getting, because that's like maybe I'll make another video on this, but trust me, I would not recommend it, because that's what I did was it back in 2018, I actually had like a decent full-time job. It wasn't like the best. I worked at a call center or whatever, but it was bringing in income. But I decided to quit my job to do this full time. And even back then, I was super heavily sample based, you know. But even if you're not sample based, I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend keeping your job. If you do want to quit it to pursue this, you better make sure that you're making like 2 times more than your actual like 9 to 5 income. But just a side note too, because again, I think a lot of it, the worriness does come from the money part. But if you already have an income, this shouldn't really be an issue. What do you guys think about that? Let me know down below in the comments, because that's something I kind of think about when I see the comments, or when I see comments about copyright issues and copyright strikes. But yeah, just my thoughts about sampling. I could probably maybe talk about this a little bit more. Those are just points that I'm thinking about and I want to bring up. Again, I get a lot of people asking me, but let me know what you guys think down below. If you want to support the channel, check out my affiliate links down below. Shoot me with a subscribe, a like on this video. But yeah, thanks for watching. Peace.